Hello, everyone, and welcome to our live broadcast, 6 Degrees of Connection. My name is Nadia. I live in UAE, and I would like to introduce my co-host today, Alina. She's currently located in Switzerland, and our guest, Sacha Stone. Sacha is located right now in Bali, Indonesia.
Hi, everyone. Hello. Hello, Sacha. How are you?
Hi, Alina. Hi, Nadezhda. Lovely to meet you both, and thank you for having me.
Thank you for joining us. And dear viewers, just before we start, I would like to introduce our special guest today. So as you know, we are testing the theory of 6 handshakes. And according to this social theory, all people in the world are connected through 5 or fewer social connections only. And we were honored to interview His Grace Bishop Riyah Abu El-Assal, and he gave a great interview to ALLATRA TV. I encourage you to watch this show because it was really very interesting, and he nominated Sacha Stone for today's show of ALLATRA TV. And I'm sure that many of you know Sacha because his activity in the world is well known. He's a founder of Humanitat, and he's a founder of the New Earth Project, as well as ITNG, International Tribunal for Natural Justice, and Judicial Commission of Inquiry into Human Trafficking and Child Abuse. Hello, Sacha, and I hope that I introduced you correctly. And just for our viewers, daily shows on Creative Society you can watch in different languages on different channels of ALLATRA TV. This is all volunteer projects, volunteer activity, and all these TV broadcasts are done by same people as you and me. So please join us. This is an open and free platform, and be our guest. And I would like to pass the floor to Nadia in order she could introduce the project Creative Society to those who joined us for the first time.
Thank you, Alina. So the 6 Degrees of Connection is part of a global project, Creative Society. And the volunteers of ALLATRA International Public Movement have been conducting lots of interviews, social surveys, live conversations, where they have been asking the people in which world they would like to live in, and which format of creative society would meet the needs of each person on Earth. So, Sacha, for you, a question today. What is a creative society for you? How do you envision it? Or in which society you, your family, would feel happy, safe, and comfortable to live in?
Thank you for the question. And it's actually a very big question. People might think that it's a simple question. It's not. It's an incredibly powerful question because you are asking me to describe a complete paradigm shift between what we have lived through for thousands of years and how we are now envisioning manifesting a new world, a new earth. And it's a beautiful question. In simple terms, the elevation of art and beauty and consciousness should become the main focus of all human beings in the world. The truth of the matter is that we were born to this world as sons and daughters of God. Each one of us were meant to come here to anchor patterns of perfection into this world and to manifest beauty and consciousness and art. Why do I say art? Because art is where we engage our bliss, we engage our creative enterprise. We step away from being a slave in a system which is created for us, whether we are talking about religious constructs or cultural constructs or intellectual constructs. The problem with the world we have is that we are drowning in war and disease and poverty. And how do these things emerge? We have to look very closely at ourselves and our cultures and our history to begin to understand what it is that constantly manifests war and disease and poverty. And why is it that we are having conversations about art and beauty and consciousness when we haven't yet addressed the source code of our civilization. So I think that we have to address the question that you asked by first looking at the past and in a sense, redeeming and absolving and forgiving ourselves and history and our family, our dynasties, our lineage, our cultures, our religion, all of this mythology of the past, which has brought us to today, where we are living in a world with 5 billion people under house arrest, in quarantine, self-isolationing, wearing masks, being threatened with forced vaccination programs. This is an insane proposition. This is not the world that we want to describe, the three of us. We want to look at a world where we are engaging creativity and fellowship, and we are stepping inside our own sovereignty. So we have to say goodbye to many of the elements of the past before we can begin this noble journey into the future. So I want us to have the courage to look at all of the ill of the past and to absolve it. Human trafficking is a huge problem. It is one of the biggest industries on earth. I think the second biggest financial industry in the world is connected to modern slavery and to child abuse and sex exploitation and so on. This is very real. This is much bigger business than Silicon Valley, much bigger. It's huge. It's a multi-trillion-dollar business. The misery and the suffering of so many millions and millions of our brothers and sisters. We have got to address that if we are serious about the question of manifesting a creative society. Because as you quite rightly said, and as Alina said in her introduction, your beautiful movement is basically built on the idea that every single human being counts and matters. And each one of us are connected in that sense on an equal level footing. That is entirely correct. So we must place our attention into South Sudan and into Mauritania and to Mozambique and Botswana and Rwanda, Central African Republic, Myanmar, Burma, all around the world where there are travesties taking place. Now, how do I personally anticipate moving forward into a creative society? By first recognizing, not just forgiving myself and my ancestors for the crimes in the past. This is necessary to release the language inside our DNA. So much of the cult programming coming from over religiosity and too much culture. This does not serve the living. This serves the pyramid of power. And that serves old systems that controlled and dominated our own individual creativity. So we want to now recognize that, and it's okay. I say, it's okay, khalas, time out. Let's move on, okay? In a beautiful way, in a forgiving way, where we absolve, we redeem, we forgive, and we move on. Now I want to talk about art and about application of joy and of creativity, of bliss, of the orgasmic experience of being alive in this world, when you are not being controlled and dominated by systems and by technocracy and by bureaucracy. So we have to look at this thing called government. And everybody gets very afraid when I say this all around the world. I conduct multiple meetings every day, sometime with world leaders, religious leaders, political leaders, cultural leaders, academic leaders. And I also speak to many, many grassroots activists and good concerned citizens. And when I'm speaking to good citizens and good activists, they tend to get very afraid when I start to talk about government and the need for you, each of you at home, to begin to also identify what is good about government and what is not good about it. Too much of the government is bureaucracy and technocracy. It does not serve the living, it serves the fiction. It's upholding old values, old statutes and laws that do not serve the living. They serve the old empire, the old systems of supremacy and domination, again, and control. We are still in a world which is afflicted by too much cult programming with academia and the media and the high street, the consumerism. All of this is connected to a language, again, of domination, telling us what to think, what car to drive, how to feel about something, how to dress, how to feel sexy, when not to feel sexy. This is insane. We simply need to step away from all of this cult programming. In my creative society, Nadezhda, in my creative society, I will eradicate all advertising, all. Every single billboard will be torn down. Every single advertisement in every publication will be torn out. I don't want to be sold bullshit and lies by a company trying to profit off my ignorance any longer. What I want is I want to exchange knowledge. I want to transfer knowledge and wisdom and bliss and joy, communion, fellowship. I want to build sandcastles. I want to do crazy, stupid things and not care about time, because time is not money. Time is art. Time is creativity, if we choose to make it that way. So I'm suggesting, let's look at the past, absolve the past. Let's also look at today, the status quo, and say which part of it is serving us and which is not. And then have the courage to step up and step away from all of the elements that are not serving living souls, okay? And then place our attention on what we call the future, and be absolutely bold how you choose to paint on the canvas of life. Do not be timid. Dig deep, find your true joy. Even if you are laughed at, pursue that bliss. Step away from wage slavery. Step away from consumerist cult programming. Throw your television away. Get rid of it. It does not serve you. Get rid of all of that nonsense and start only to research the things which inspire you deeply and move into that. So that's essentially how, you asked me, we engage a creative society, by enacting, by embodying, and by manifesting that creative society, not just dreaming about it. That's my answer.
Thank you so much, Sacha. You know, then first of all, thanks. It's very much. It's clear. It's very much inspiring. And I think in this description, you mentioned all key points about there we are now and there we should move as a society, as people. But what you mentioned was also, you know, the motivational reason for me to start participating in the project Creative Society. You know, when I understood everything about the world we are living now, and I understood, yes, this world was left to us by our parents, grandparents, and grandparents. Okay, that's what we have. But looking into the eyes of our children, of my children, do I want to leave them the same world? Or do I want to do something now, to do something important, which can change absolutely the format of the society, and all of us will be happy in the society which is human-oriented. And when we are talking about creative society, it is a human-oriented society. This is once in the existence of our civilization. We are talking about a society which is not profit-oriented, which is not idea-oriented, but it's a human-oriented. And this society can happen then all people unite by a common goal. And I understand that it is real, but I want to ask you, Sacha, do you think it is real for us to unite by a common goal? And does the future of our society depend on everyone or on some particular people?
It depends on how much we are prepared to seize this shift that is happening right now. Because rather like a few years ago in Egypt, I was just discussing a little earlier, the huge transformation that occurred at the social ecological level and the socio-political level and the socio-economic level, albeit I believe that was engineered by white man's poison. I don't believe that that was something that happened organically. I think that was, again, an orchestration of cultural engineering. But nonetheless, it had a huge impact on the lives of tens of millions, hundreds of millions of people. Because once you just break what is old and brittle, and you start to reformat ideas, and you have creative input with new ideas, it's always going to be an improvement invariably on the past. So I think it just depends on the degree to which individuals choose to start to disobey insane rules and regulations. That's my honest answer to your question. So how many individuals are there who are going to stand in the flame of their true Christed consciousness? And I'm not talking about Christianity. I'm talking about Christed as in the vibral light of prana, of life force, the divine light that comes into us. This is what animates our bodies in this world. And the degree to which we are prepared to receive that divine light and breathe it into our cells and reformat our atoms and our beautiful bodies and cleanse ourselves of the pollution, of the contamination, of the programming, the cult programming, all of this, which is what is inhibiting us. So many of us are leaving school, leaving high school and leaving college completely constricted, already poisoned, mind, body, and soul. The bodies are racked with too much sugars and processed foods and glyphosates and fluoride and aluminum. And the people are sick at the age of 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. They're stumbling out of school with diabetes and all sorts of health conditions because they've been poisoned in the last couple of generations. We're living in a society which permissions its government to be financed by the corporations, which is the lobbying groups financed by the agrochemical industries, the pharmaceutical industries, and so on. And that means that we are mutated. We're not even in a condition to think straight. We are so poisoned. And we are raining down all of these poisons from the air, and they're being pumped into the soil, and they're being pumped into the water. Dear God, this is the mutancy that is taking place. So we have to recognize that it is our governments and the institutions that are the ones that are doing that to the living souls. And we have to restructure them. Or we are only going to be having a tea party in a prison cell. This is the analogy that I use. And pretending that we can dream some beautiful dream of the future. Nonsense. Look at the American dream. Look at that bullshit. What was the American apple pie dream all about for the last 75 years? They killed their own president in 1963, murdered him, and the mafiosi moved into Washington, D.C., took over the Pentagon. They were conducting rogue treaties left, right, and center, trading uranium, gun running, gold running, drug running, CIA running most of the world's drug enterprise over the last half a century. For the love of God. These are serious matters. And most of our governments are involved in that criminal conduct and behavior. It's called racketeering. I know about this. I sit with world leaders. I was taught myself by world leaders in the last 21 years on all of these subjects. That's why I speak to it very boldly. I didn't read it in books. I didn't look at it on blogs. So that's just the way it is. That's the status quo. And again, the degree to which we as individuals are prepared to awaken within the dream spell will determine how many of us are going to shape the future or not. So civil disobedience at a time of tyranny becomes a duty of care. But I'm asking the question to you directly. How many people in your circle are prepared to enter civil disobedience, tear off that stupid mask, because we all know they don't work, and start to breathe God-given oxygen, walk into the daylight, don't pay attention to these insane statutes. They're not laws, they are codes dreamt up by technocrats who are themselves serving the banker class. They're not serving the living, that's you and me. So do you want to continue to be poisoned and contaminated and cult programmed as a human being? Or do you truly care about the question of your children and your grandchildren? If you do genuinely care, then you must become the martyr in this generation. And don't be afraid of that, because the government is not going to bite you. The government has already lost most of its power. Most of the governments in the world today are already in foreclosure. They, you know, the technocrats don't necessarily know that, but the leadership do. The Vatican complex is already in foreclosure. All of these corporation governments, including the UAE, Nadezhda, It's a fact. I've sat down with multiple leaders in your part of the world. They know it. It's like how to control the masses, how to keep the people happy, how to prevent protests and riots, and the great awakening of humanity. This is the greatest threat to leadership. But I can tell you, there's a lot of really good leaders there who themselves are delighted that we are going through a tremendous shift now in the world. And what is going to happen in the coming days and weeks, looking at North America with the Trump administration moving into a second term, which it will, absolutely. And the military intelligence, good people in the military intelligence all around the world have come together. That's also a circle of fellowship that all of our prayers should be on those people, because they are the ones who are about to reclaim the satanic and Luciferian element of our governments and bring humanity back into some kind of equilibrium. I've had multiple conversations with His Grace, Bishop Ria Abu El Assal over many, many years. At first, he thought I was very radical when I was having these conversations, but over the years, he's become very conversant with these radical subjects, and he's another one of those tremendous world leaders in his early 80s as one of the highest ranking and most beloved religious leaders in the world. He is a man who speaks pure truth, and he has such courage and conviction. He doesn't give a damn about the status quo and about the establishment and about what they think and what they're saying. The United Nations is a goddamn criminal mafia. It's a racketeering mafiosi. I'm a former director general in the IGO sector of the UN. I'm the one to tell you that, as I tell other world leaders. It's over. Let's have the courage, people, to step into our humanity, the thing we're talking about. Let's just connect with the pulse of humanity and love one another, forgive one another, and then start to paint on the canvas of life.
Yeah, Sasha, it's very sad, but you didn't say, between all the facts which you mentioned, you didn't say anything new. And all these facts, they are open. It's not a secret, and anyone can read about it. Then you decide either you want to face it and to say, okay, what do I do? Either you really just try to ignore it if it does not exist. But basically, the important thing that when we are talking about leaders, when we are talking about governments, when we are talking about even workforce in the poorest countries, we are talking about people. Yeah. And we know, because the movement Creative Society started from 9-year social research conducted by people, volunteers. And we know by sure, guys, we can show you the proof. Millions of interviews and social surveys taken globally. Their people answer they want to live in a peaceful society. They want to be happy. They want their children to be happy. And this is something which can unite us. And as you mentioned, everyone understands that these are never-ending crises. We are really fed up with them. And we understand that most of them are artificial crises. But there is one crisis we are facing as humanity. It's climatic crisis. And this crisis is not under someone's power. But if we are wise people living on this planet and we really take about ourselves and our home, we should unite, because only by unity we can bring these changes. And this unity is the unity of attention of people to the wish and to the activity that we can build a better world. Without destroying anything, but only by taking and multiplying the best everywhere. And by inviting guests as you are to our interviews, also our goal is to, to, let's say, talk about things openly and to become sensitive, not only to my problem and to the problem of my family or my friends, but also to become sensitive to the true world issues and problems, because we are all united. And my next question would be about creative ideology. you know, as you mentioned already, we also came to the understanding that a healthy society cannot be under the influence of unhealthy ideology. And we would like to introduce to our viewers the fifth foundation of the creative society. Overall, there are 8 foundations, and dear viewers, you can visit the article Creative Society, which we will attach to this video. And in this article, you will find the information about the 8 foundations of the creative societies. They are those pillars on which we can build a society which really protects a human life. And I would like to read for our viewers. So the foundation is called the creative ideology. And ideology should be aimed at popularizing the best human qualities and stopping everything which is directed against a human. The main priority is the priority of humanity, high spiritual and moral aspirations of the human, humanness, virtue, mutual respect, and strengthening of friendship. Creating conditions for the development and education of a human with a capital H, cultivating moral values in each person and society, prohibition of propaganda of violence, condemnation and denunciation of any form of division, aggression, and anti-human manifestations. What would you say, Sasha? Do you think it's something what we need?
Well, I'll address two things. You started by talking about ideas and how we need to be aware of how ideas are formed. I can't remember the expression that you used, but how we are controlled by ideas. Look, the second thing that you spoke about was the right to life when you're reading that wonderful prose there. The right to life is the basis of all international law, the basis of all universal law as well. So I think you've got that down beautifully. But I fundamentally disagreed with something you said earlier when you mentioned that climate change, or climatic change as you put it, is something which we need to all come together around. You know, I'm old at this game. I've been doing this a long time. Climate change is the worst kind of cultural engineering. In the first instance, no, we should not be concerned with climate change at all. Absolutely not, because it's a goddamn lie. And I say that because I have deep, deep experience, political experience in it. I know who's behind climate change. I know how they created this meme and engineered it in order to create a scarcity economics model for humanity 20 years ago. Everything that Al Gore has put in his PowerPoint presentation nearly 20 years ago was a lie, pretty much, and has proven out to be a lie. Everything that Leonardo DiCaprio, God bless him, also supported as a Hollywood celebrity puppet has proven to be bullshit. These people, frankly, in another world, would be locked up in prison for crimes against humanity. So climate change is not the issue. The issue is our lack of consciousness and the degree to which we have allowed ourselves and our children to be programmed and cult programmed by globalist transnational agendas that are essentially to do with banking and to do with profiteering, which is connected to consumerism. So is the climate changing? Let's just touch on that briefly if we may. Yes, it is. But let me give you some news. Everything changes in this universe. Everything changes in the galaxy and in the solar system. We are constantly
it's a cosmic processes, you're right.
Right. And so the idea that we should come together around a false light construct dreamt up by transnational bankers to try and force us into monetizing air and doing carbon trading, declaring war against carbon is black magic. They were simply, in a sense, turning us against the carbon molecule. Everything in creation here is based on the carbon molecule. And the business of oxygen and carbon and what are we breathing in and what are we breathing out? If you understand pure chemistry, the fossil fuels are putting out certain things and they're actually feeding plants, and the plants then put out the oxygen and feed. And so there's what we shouldn't be doing is chopping down rainforests. Absolutely. Absolutely. What we shouldn't be doing is fracking and plundering the bowels of this sacred earth and bringing up these petrochemical things and exploding them on the surface, and then harnessing that as a utility and selling that utility as electricity to industry and to people for a vast profit, that's where it becomes insane. That's where it becomes unsustainable. But that is what your government and your banks are doing, not you and I. So let's not let them try to give a guilt trip to us about climate change, because that is a construct that comes from their own profiteering. So I will leave it at that, but I thank you very much for the second part about the right to life, because that is true. That is the basis of all universal law. And it's something now in the next few days and weeks, mark my words, when you see what is about to happen in the new year, I know some of what's going to happen. It's the whole world is going to be undergoing a huge cultural shift, and it's connected to the right to life, which is connected to things like the vaccination program and those kinds of abominations that are going to be revealed to the world very shortly.
Yeah, Sasha, thank you very much for sharing your opinion about this climate change story, because you are right. And we mentioned this situation. We should talk about this broadly, about the origin of some processes and the role of anthropological factor in everything, the true role, and how it's, the consciousness of people is being manipulated again, monetizing different stories on this issue. But what I would like to say, the volunteers of ALLATRA International Public Movement started also a project on the climate, and people from all over the world can send their video what is happening right now in front of you, out of your window. And we have a weekly breaking news climate reports from volunteers from all over the world. They last 15 to 20 minutes. And what we do see that everything what is happening recently became stronger. If it's an earthquake, it's stronger. If it's a floating, it's stronger. But what we see, and we see it with the cameras like this of our volunteers, we see that people who are in this situation, they don't get enough help. They deal themselves with floatings in Malaysia, for example. And at the moment, then we see with our eyes what is happening, and we understand that humanity has all resources to help. But people deal with it by themselves. And this is also the question we always raise, and I also encourage our viewers to learn about this project on ALLATRA TV. You can watch weekly news made by people as you and me as well, so that we know you cannot watch this news on TV, on official TV channels, but you will know what is happening, because people, they do say what is happening. So thank you so much for this. Maybe you wanted to add something here, or we can move to our next question.
Just very briefly, I mean, I was the Director General at the United Nations in the intergovernmental renewable energy sector. I was a Director General, and that was my portfolio 10 years ago, at the time of the big Gulf of Mexico oil spill, which was the biggest crisis on Earth. But that was an orchestrated, engineered crisis. And again, I was the one who was helping to put together the white paper for the White House, for the Oval Office, on that drama, with the recommendations on sustainable solutions and blah, blah, blah. This is how I learned about the bullshit. This is how I learned about what's going on in the basement. And then you see that we had all of the solutions at the time, that we could clean up an oil spill, no problem at all. An oil spill is just a transfer of some organic substance to another part of the world. I mean, from under the ocean to above the ocean. It gets assimilated by the ocean. It gets assimilated and eaten up by plankton, by microbial algae, and so on, and moves back. Nature has its own way of dealing with monstrous events like earthquakes and tidal waves, tsunamis, and 13,000 years ago, the entire planet was covered in a deluge at the time of Noah, which was entirely true. That was a planetary reset that occurred. That was to do with astrophysical, astronomical phenomena. So these are all of the things that are connected to the human consciousness. Climate is affected by human consciousness. The earth is living and conscious. When we understand that, then we can know how to see into the future and how to create a perfect creative society. But we have to own the fact that we are the most conscious element, in a sense, that is walking on the surface of the earth. And we should claim that power. That is where our divine nature comes from. All of the mystical traditions of Islam, whether you're talking about, Shafi, Maliki, Hanbali, it doesn't matter which school of Islam you're looking at. They all have the same mystical traditions. The same thing with Christianity, the same thing with Buddhism, the same thing with Hinduism. Let's go back to the mystical traditions and remember the majesty and remember the mystery of life. It's all connected to us owning our divinity and engaging that sacrament of a true relationship with the soil, with this earth. And then we don't have to allow systems and organizations and institutions and multilateral agencies and governments and bankers and wankers and, to start to control our reality framework. We just need to own it. That's essentially what I'm passionate about, is about sovereignty in the human expression and owning the fact that you have such unbelievable power to manifest change in this world, so long as you're standing in that light. And don't move from it. And don't be told by any church or any priest or any imam or any monk or any government or anyone what to think and how to think. Only tap into your conscience, your consciousness and your conscience, and let that be the determiner of the right action and the pure truth that you manifest in this world.
Exactly. And thank you so much for raising this topic as well, because, if you start to watch carefully, you understand that every day appear thousand and thousand new reasons to divide people, to separate people, to make people enemies. And this is a never-ending process, I would say. We are different in everything, but then you ask yourself a question: in what are we equal? Then here we come to the understanding that if you start to your own research, and we had an open research for volunteers of, again, ALLATRA International Public Movement, which was called Universal Grain. And it was an open project. There people were offered to take any philosophical, religious book of the world, to study it carefully, and to compare at least 2-3 books and to find out the universal grain which is inside each of them. So at the end of this project, which lasted, I think, couple of years, there was a result that proved and showed that there is a universal grain in each and every religious and philosophic book. And this universal grain is love, internal love, and divine nature of every human being. So we don't need even to find what unites us. We are united as from birth. We are all united. We are all human beings. Yes, we forgot about it, but it's time to bring back truth to people and to unite, to remember who we are truly. And as Sacha mentioned today, to remember, to recall our true divine nature. And to understand the power of our attention and the power of our will, if we really want to change ourselves and to change our world. So thank you so much, Sacha. I think that our time is running to the end, but we still have a couple of questions to ask you. Nadia, I pass you the floor.
Thank you, Alina. First of all, Sacha, I would like to say that your speech is so inspirational. I'm sure those people who are watching us right now, it brings the fire inside, this sparkle to not only to acknowledge the truth, but also to action. So now the question from me is, from all what you have said, all these leaders that are doing the mess in the world, I mean, there are just few people. It's not millions of people who are doing the mess in the world. The rest of the people are us, the simple people. So what do you think we as simple people, as each individual, could bring to this world to change it from a consumerism to a creative society? Just in our daily life.
Sure, I
as an
understand the question.
example, maybe?
I understand the question because I answer the question every day in every media interview that I do, because that is the real question. The true question is, what can I do? What can we do? This is the problem, of course, because then I start to speak the truth and it becomes very uncomfortable. So the truth of the matter is that
This is what we are looking for
yeah,
the
well,
truth.
it's what we really want. But when we hear it, we think, oh God, maybe I wait for somebody else to do it first. Because the truth is that we should not be doing anything against our conscience. So you are born with that technology of the spirit, which determines right from wrong. Every one of us has got that gift from God. We all have the conscience, the God-given conscience. And we should never do anything in this world that moves against the fabric of our soul or our conscience or our soul covenant. By being good humans, honorable humans, standing in the light of Allah, the light of God, the light of our true nature, and to do right action in this world, and to challenge the devil every step of the way, and to own our divinity, and to act in pure truth. That much I can do, whether I'm in a prison cell or I'm on a tropical island. It doesn't matter. I have the power to be a son or a daughter of God Most High. And that is my duty at the soul level. I own this world. This is my world. I'm not being told by bureaucrats and legislators and technocrats and Babylonian priests and Satanists and Luciferians and bankers. I'm not waiting for instructions. This is my world. And I will walk my walk in this world. And I will not move against the fabric of my soul. That's it. And you see, when we do this, this is the true sacrament. Dear God, the blessings come to us. The road comes up to meet us. The lion comes to you. And we need to own this majesty in our DNA, in our true song, in our true story. Because if we don't, they will poison us to death. They will inject us with poisons. They will push us and conscript us into wars. They will contaminate the water, the soil, and the food until we're all extinct. Because that's the nature of the Sabbatean thinking. That is the nature of the false light. And I'm afraid to say, we are at the end of a spiral of civilization where we become completely corrupted at that level. So we need to completely reinvent it. It's going to be a lot easier next year than this year, trust me. With what is happening and the shakeup and the shakedown of the Vatican complex and the crowns of Europe and the European Union and the United Nations and all of these insane institutions, they are all being shaken to the core. Okay, including the sheikdoms and the principalities of the Middle East and North Africa. They are all undergoing seismic shift. There is going to be massive asset seizure and reallocation, retooling and repurposing of funds as well, because most of that wealth, 95% of it, was stolen, heisted from you and me, our grandparents, our great-grandparents, through wage slavery, through indentureship to the fictitious. Okay. That's all changing. We don't need to go and throw rocks at the castle any longer. It's okay. It's all changing. But start to make decisions on a daily basis in your life that resonate, that sing in the soul. Right action and pure truth. And if it makes life a little bit uncomfortable to deal with the local policeman or the local bureaucrat or the local public health administrator or the local courtroom, then do it. See it as a pantomime. It's all fiction. It's all the fiction of our lives. Participate in the destruction, the deconstruction of the fiction, and we will emerge as blessed people in a creative society, for sure.
Thank you so much, Sacha.
Thank you,
Very
Sacha.
inspiring. Thank you for your openness. Thank you for the truth which you are sharing with the world. Thank you to all volunteers of ALLATRA TV for providing this platform, but by what they do during their free time, by their own resources, because we all want to live in a better world. We all believe that we can build a creative society. We don't need a revolution anymore. We need an evolution, and we can really do it. We can create this revolution with our own hands, minds, and with our hearts, and with our minds led by hearts. That's important. And I'm very happy, Sasha, that you joined us today. And what would you wish to our viewers, please?
I wish them long life and prosperity and happiness and abundance and the human orgasm and bliss as much as you can take at the soul level. Go, make it manifest. Seize this world, own this world, and stop obeying insane people. Start to own your life and own your journey.
Thank you, Sasha. Thank you, Alina. And thank you to our viewers today. And if you or your friends would like to be our guest at any future live conversation, you can just send out an email to info@allatraunites.com. And if you would like to join the Creative Society project of ALLATRA International Public Movement, you can visit our website, allatraunites.com, where you will see the red button Join. All you need to do is just to fill out an easy and short form. You can share our broadcast in social networks using these two hashtags, hashtag Creative Society and hashtag ALLATRA Unites. Leave your comments below the video and join the 6 Handshakes initiative. After all, the more people find out about the possibility of living in a creative society, the faster we can actually make it happen. So
Thank you, Nadia. Thank you, Sasha. And I would like to invite you and dear viewers, I would like to invite all of you to join the World Global Summit Creative Society, which will take place on the 20th of December, 2020. It will be an online conference. There we are going to join all the world together. All people, everyone can join this summit. And we will talk openly, as we did today, about our society and the ways out, what we can do, all of us, why we should unite, what means unity. Because most people, they think that in order to build something, people have to unite by their bank accounts. No, guys, we need to unite by our attention, power of our attention. We should be united by one common goal, and the world will change, because this is a world of clever people with huge potential, divine creatures, and everything is absolutely possible. So, the 20th of December is a huge step for the humanity. Let's gather all together and show that we want to watch into the happy eyes of our children. Join our broadcasts and have a great day, everyone. Thank you, Sasha, for joining us.
Thank you. God bless you both.
So now we will watch a short video about the conference. Please join us.
Every day, we share a great amount of information. This information forms our reality. Is this the way we wish to live? We need change. The change starts with us, with the information we share. Consumerist society leads us to death. We need a new vector of life, a creative society. It is up to you and me to build a creative society worldwide, where human life is the main value. Development of humanity is the main aim. Human safety is the main priority. Is it possible to build a creative society now? Yes. All we need to do is unite in one common idea, a creative society. People around the world are already acting to share the idea of creative society with the whole world to make it a reality. Learn how on the unique international online conference, Creative Society, United We Can, December 20th, 10 a.m. Eastern Time, live on ALLATRA TV. You are the one who can change the future.